Come on down, step right in. Carole's Kitchen, where we begin. See what's cooking, something new. Plant-based power just for you. Delicious meals on every plate. Healthy choices feeling great. Inspiration in every dish. Taste the magic, it's our wish. Power to the plants we sing. Health for you, it's everything. Cooking up a storm and then Carole's Kitchen, love and care. Education one bite at a time, nourishing the heart and mind. Join the journey, let's unite. Pure plant power feels so right. Power to the plants we sing. Health for you, it's everything. Cooking up a storm and then Carole's Kitchen, love and care.
Hi everyone, I am Jim Spellos and I am so happy to welcome you to our monthly series, Cooking with Chef Carole, presented by Plant Powered Metro New York and co-sponsored by the Marlene Meyerson JCC in Manhattan. We also give a huge shout out today to our Jumpstart participants right now. I know the amazing information you've been receiving, and now you can see another one of our amazing plant-based chefs and one of the best teachers anywhere, Chef Carole, to provide you with more great information. So welcome. If you don't know, if you're first time joining us, Plant Powered Metro New York empowers people to achieve better health and overcome chronic disease through a whole food, plant-based approach to nutrition. We offer evidence-based education, resources, and a grassroots network of support to create community and inspire change. So it's the end of September, and if anybody tells you there isn't great fresh fruit and vegetables still available here in the Northeast, don't believe them. We just went out this week and picked some peppers, some eggplant, some tomatoes, and boy, is the ratatouille delicious. And perhaps we'll get a peek at how Carole's garden in New Mexico is thriving. As always, we encourage you to buy locally and eat organic, or even better, regeneratively grown fruits and veggies, because soil health matters. So what's coming up with Plant Powered Metro New York? Well, we've mentioned already that we have the jump starters here, and we just want to let you know that we have 2 jump starts set to begin in October, one in English, one in Spanish. Why consider it? Well, amazing education, group support and mentorship, resources, and we have a Jumpstart info session tomorrow night. That's the 29th of September at 8 p.m. for more information. And as always, to register for these or any future events of ours, you can go onto our website, plantpoweredmetronewyork.org. And with all that here, I think it's about time to let you know that we want to find out where you are, where you're watching from, and also let's get this off the screen. I'm doing way too many things right now, Carole. So we got all this here. If you like us on Facebook, on YouTube, and ask your questions in the chat. And right now, let me just bring on the star of the show, Carole. Carole, what's
Jim, hi. You know, we're missing Wendy today, but she needed to take a little emergency trip. So thank you for like double dutying, Jim. First of all, I have to say, you know, Jim is always behind the scenes. So if anything goes weird, everyone, we just have to give a moment to Jim to like kind of balance himself out again. So
Carole, how's your garden going?
My garden is great. There's so many things I want to tell you guys, but because we haven't been together in so long, it feels like. But let's look at the garden. Let's look at the garden because, oh my gosh, that is the garden. That is the garden. I have on the left almost all leafy greens, kale, 2 kinds of kale. We'll talk about that today. 2 kinds of kale. There's chard, there's broccoli, there's beets, there's radishes. I just harvested onions just a few, about a month ago. Tomatoes are coming out crazily, and there's lots of broccoli. So thank you, Jim, for showing all those things. I'm so proud. I'm such a city girl. I grew up in the city. I'm a city girl through and through. And this is my 4th season growing, and every season I feel like I learned something new and try something new. So I'm excited about that. So what is on the menu today? What you might be wondering. Well, as normal, as always, I am action packed. I am always trying to do too many things because I get so excited because I like sharing with you what I'm eating these days. And that's what we're going to have, what I'm basically eating these days. In lots of ways, I've been barely cooking, I have to admit, because I literally just pull things out of the garden, and I just create whatever. I make everything lazily. Salads, I eat a lot of tomatoes, so many tomatoes. I'm going to turn into tomato. And most of our dishes today have something that's coming from the garden. So that's where our focus is. We're going to make, and we're going to do things a little backwards today due to time and to try to make everything work out. You can see that I'm working on the apples, and that technically is going to be our dessert today. A very simple baked apple. Why do I think that that is a perfect one? Because most of you are in the New York State, not all of you, but it's time for apples, apples, apples. I remember my husband used to say, what is at the market in the dead of winter? And I would say apples and apples and apples. But apples are here in we don't really have a lot of apples that grow here in New Mexico. And I am kind of missing all the variety of apples. Most of the apples that I buy right now are at the grocery store. So let's just talk about the apples for 1 minute, and then no, let's just tell you what else is on the menu. African stew. We're going to make an African stew, and we're going to make a lovely beet and yogurt and za'atar dip, like a spread. So it's not a hummus, and it's just a dip. And so we're going to make the stew in the middle, and we're going to get to the beet and yogurt and za'atar at the end. So I want to get things in the oven so that they start cooking. So back to the apples. What I wanted to say is that when I was in New York, I always used the Rome apple for baked apples. It's big and round and firm and holds its shape wonderfully. And in the recipe, I actually say I prefer to use the Rome Beauty, but there's no sight of a Rome Beauty here in New Mexico. They don't get here, and so I've been kind of doing a little bit of experimenting on which apples kind of hold up well. And in my chef notes, I actually mentioned to you that there are apples that do hold up well. Fiji apples, Golden Delicious are good. Gala apples are good. And Johnny Gold are also good. I love wine sap. That's another apple that's a New York apple. And I actually think that I might have, yesterday I bought, so I have a Fuji and a Gala, but I bought a bunch of apples at my own farmer's market. And the guy didn't know what variety they were. The farmer, he couldn't tell me. But I said, I think those look like wine sap. And he said they might well be. So I don't know why he didn't know. I was kind of puzzled by that, but that's okay. So you can see that I'm sitting here digging out the cores while I'm talking to you. And what am I digging out? I'm digging out the center. I'm using a melon baller that looks like this. And I'm just digging out the seeds, the center part, the part that you don't want to eat. And that's going to make a nice cavity in our apple. You see, it's got a big hole. And you don't want to cut all the way through to the bottom. You want to leave that bottom uh, intact, okay? So I just have 2 more to go. I'm only one person, but I'm making 5. Why? Because they're so yummy for a snack in the afternoon or dessert after dinner, or they could be, you could cut it up and put it on your oatmeal in the morning. I feel like you can eat a baked apple at any time of day, really. And it's so good. Now, my grandma used to make baked apples. I remember as a kid, she would put all sorts of things in her baked apple, sometimes prunes and apricots. She would make a whole like little compote underneath and it is very common for baked apples to have lots of butter and sugar. And we're not using butter and sugar, right? So I just want to drive that point home, is that this is a very simple dessert, very healthy, and doesn't need the butter, doesn't need the sugar, extra sugar. And if you didn't have one of these melon ballers, I'm going to suggest you could use a paring knife to get out the center if you're good with the paring knife, or you could even use a teaspoon, a measuring spoon, to start digging. Once you get that first scoop out, the rest of the scooping is pretty straightforward, pretty easy. And I'm just going to rinse that off and kind of put it back to where it goes. It's a melon baller, okay? That's so we have all of the cavities, and we're going to make it very simple today. We're going to put raisins and walnuts. And I suggest in the chef's notes that you could experiment. We're going to keep it really straightforward, something I think everybody has. Raisins, we're going to put some walnuts, and we're going to put some cinnamon and nutmeg. But I do suggest that you experiment. You could put allspice. You could put a little clove. You could put some cardamom and pistachios. Cardamom and pistachios go very well. Now, the key to when you're filling up your little cavities is you're going to drop the raisins in, right? And it doesn't matter. I always let raisins go into the pan itself, because that's extra raisins. You just don't want to pack everything. And like I said, at the bottom, the raisins will puff up. And I was explaining earlier, my grandmother used to definitely put some prunes at the bottom. She'd put some apricots at the bottom, and she'd make a lovely compote. And I really do remember that. And then I'm going to put have some walnuts. They're kind of in pieces, actually. And we're just going to put those walnuts in here in the cavity. Again, not stuffing. You don't want to overstuff, because everything kind of puffs up as the juices get to the fruit itself. Okay, and I'm going to top it off with a few more raisins. Okay, again, it's okay that they're falling to the bottom. And then we're going to put a bunch of water in the bottom. And what does that mean, a bunch of water? I'm going to say like probably 2 cups in this size pan. You want it to be almost at least, let's say a half an inch, 3/4 of an inch. And you can always come back later. We're going to check it out. The oven is preheating to 375, and we're not putting any sugar, okay? No sugar. But we do have those raisins that are floating in the bottom, and those are certainly going to add some sweetness. And the water is going to help keep the pan from burning at the bottom. And it's also going to make us a little syrup. Sometimes I don't have any right now, but sometimes I have that frozen unsweetened apple juice in the freezer that I use for a couple various dishes that I make. And I keep that can inside the freezer. And if I had that can today, I would just go maybe take out a tablespoon of that unsweetened apple juice, and I would just put that frozen right into this pan, and that would just add more depth and more juice to the base of to your basting. Okay, then we're going to do the rest of the thing. We're going to put some cinnamon, and we're going to make it very simple here. I like putting it all on the edge. Okay, you can do it however you'd like. You could have put it in the cavity first if you wanted, but I like putting it on the skin itself. So it's going a little bit inside, and it's going also on the outside, okay? So that part is all important. Let's get these things kind of moved out to give us space. This is my bowl that I'm keeping for compost. And then I have some nutmeg, and this is one spice I really encourage you to not buy it already ground. You can use a microplane. This is a microplane just for nutmeg. It has a little carrying case for the nutmeg. And I'm just going to literally, the nutmeg comes in a little, I don't know, like a little kind of ball. And there's nothing like fresh nutmeg. I mean, we're going to talk about a bunch of spices today, and feel free to ask any questions today. I know there's a lot of jump starters. At one time, I was a jump starter, actually. I was already a chef, but I had been a vegetarian for about almost 30 years, probably 25 years, 28 years. And when it came time for me to decide to leave the milk products and eggs and things, I was just like, I don't know if I can do this. In fact, Wendy was kind of my friend. She was my friend then, and we were talking about it all the time. And I said, you know, I've tried to give up milk. I've tried to give up ice cream. I don't know if I can give up pizza. These were all things I was in love with. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to enroll in the Jumpstart, and I'm going to do it for 21 days. And if in the 21 days I don't like any of it, I'll just go back to my normal vegetarian ways. So honestly, I had a 5-day detox. I was not so happy in the first few days. Was not feeling well, actually. But once I got beyond those moments of not feeling so well and having a detox, which does happen to some people, once I got over that, I was ravenously hungry, and because I didn't eat that much the first few days, and all I wanted was to eat vegetables somehow. And it was really good. It was all really good. And there was no looking back. There was absolutely no looking back. And I have to say, from that moment on, I never thought about milk again. I never thought about cheese again. And I certainly found replacement of ice cream to make ice cream. And because I'm a baker, I started slowly working towards how am I going to make things? How am I going to make anything that I love? Even things that are traditional things for me. I come from a Jewish home, and I thought, how am I going to make challah without eggs and oil? How am I going to do it? So it's kind of been a mission of mine over the years to try to figure these things out. And because it's fall, we're having these apples, and this is what they look like before they go in. Can you see that, Jim? They're really pretty. And we can always add more water, but we're going to get them in the preheated oven at 375. They take about 45 minutes. So I'm going to check on them when we're almost done with the show. And we're going to also check on them because if the water starts to just evaporate, I'm going to just add more water. So it's not a big deal about the water. Okay, so the water is going to slowly cook off, and we'll just add some more if we need it. Sometimes I love the when you take it out of the oven, it looks like kind of cinnamon, nutmeg, kind of brown water. But when you refrigerate it, those sugars start to kind of get cold, and it kind of looks like syrup a little bit. So it's I love to have the syrup part of it. It's nice to drizzle over the apple. So that is our baked apples, and now is a good time if anyone had questions.
No questions right now. You know, baked apples never were my favorite, but I loved all the spices that you're putting in there. I mean, cinnamon and nutmeg is my go-to for almost everything in the morning. My wife sometimes makes an amazing butternut squash with apples and raisins and cinnamon nutmeg as a dessert, and that's just another great way to use the apples.
Yummy. Yummy. Well, you know what? apples, we have to kind of live with them for the rest of the fall and winter now. Like, it's always a shock for me to leave the berries. Like, I get a little bit sad about no more berries, because I so much like the raspberries, the blueberries, the blackberries, all the berries. So this transition of going into apples and pears is always like kind of like boom. And
Yeah.
I kind of have to like psychologically. And the good thing is, Jim, we just had the Jewish New Year. We just had it this past week, and we eat apples. We eat apples. We dip them in honey, which I didn't do because I don't eat honey. But the fact is that it's just a reminder that we're having a sweet New Year, and you could dip
Yep.
them easily in date paste and have the
Oh my
same
gosh.
Jewish New Year, so, and there's date syrup, so it's not like you can't celebrate.
Hey,
Again,
Carol, we have a question that came in. Up for one quick question.
yes.
Yeah, a good substitute for raisins. What would that be? Would
Oh,
craisins work? Somebody asks.
well, you could use that. I write in the chef's note if you have the recipes, and and Jim's going to talk to you about how to get the recipes. But
They're over
I
there. They're over.
say I say here in dried fruits, you could use cherries, you could use cranberries, you could use figs if you want.
Mm,
But you just want to always be sure, especially for all of you new people that are transitioning into eating well, that you buy these dried fruits without coatings of sugar. And a lot of raisins come with oil on
oil.
them. And
Yeah,
they put oil on them so they're not all clumping together. But it is very possible and easy to find raisins that do not have oil on them. You
just look at
just
the
have to
labels.
read the
Yeah,
label.
just look at the labels. Hey, no, one more question. Can you swap pears for apples?
You pretty much could do that. I just am thinking when I do the pears, I don't do them like we just did from coring them from the top. Like I cook the pears exactly the same. But what I do is I actually cut the pear in half. And then I take out the cavity with the melon baller. So there's just a little tiny center. And then I put the raisins or the nuts in the water, the cinnamon, and you end up with a bunch of half floating pears. If you're really finicky, you could even peel the pears so that they're very beautiful and they just become poached pears. But that is an excellent question. You're just going to handle them differently based on their shape.
That should be it for questions. What's next?
What is next? We are moving on. Okay, so let's get the burner on. Let's see if I can get it on. That's first of all. I'm just going to preheat our pan. And I did some preliminary work. So let's kind of move this and talk about my preliminary work that I did to save a little bit of time. Okay? And they're all things that you have to do first anyway in this recipe. So you can see that I'm holding in this hand, I have cubed tofu. In this hand, I have a pan of roasted tomatoes. Okay, so what have we done? We have roasted the tomatoes at 400 degrees. What I did was I have tomatoes from the garden. Some are very large, some are very small. So I took a combination and I took 4 to 5 tomatoes. I literally took out their green parts, cored them, cut them in half, and I just put them in a pan. That's all I did. Put them in a pan, put them in the oven. Now, if you're not wanting to do that, I always have a lazy way out, okay? I'm showing you these things because I do these extra things because I like added flavor. So when you're roasting the tomatoes, you're getting a lot of added flavor, opposed to just taking a can of tomatoes, which you can do. You don't have to roast your own tomatoes, okay? I'm giving you an easy way out. You can get some plum tomatoes and just break them up and use a can, probably a 28-ounce can of tomatoes. That would be your easy way out. Now, I have been cooking tomatoes for like the last month, just like this. Only usually I put some garlic and I put some fresh herbs and I put some red chili flakes and I make it so yummy that this becomes the tomato sauce for pasta or for putting over polenta, or roasting tomatoes is a really great technique, and it's one of my favorite because it makes them almost like jam and very delicious. And I want to say that this part is very important. When you're roasting, can you see, Jim, that there are brown bits all over the edge because the tomatoes are kind of bubbly and
Yep.
boiling and they get all full of dots and the pan gets all brown? As the tomatoes are cooking in the oven, I go in there every 20 minutes, every however many minutes, it doesn't matter. And I'm always scraping the side because the side, first of all, you're kind of cleaning your pan. When the tomatoes are hot, actually, the side brown bits get all mixed in, and that part is so delicious. It's kind of like when you make roasted peppers and you end up with a lot of brown juice at the bottom. That brown juice is delicious. So
It's
you
like
really
it's
want.
like the fond that's at the bottom of any pan when you're cooking things on the stove, right? You always want to scrape that off.
Exactly. The same idea, Jim. The same exact when you are like deglazing a pan, right? That's really what that technique is called. So I'm kind of deglazing the casserole pan with the tomatoes, and it makes for easy cleanup. So these are just the tomatoes. Then I took the tofu, and in this dish, you want to use either firm tofu, extra firm tofu, and I think, Jim, you have a link. I think I'm using this, what they call Wildwood Organic. That's the brand, and it's high protein tofu, and it's called Super Firm. And I really like Super Firm in a stew because it just really holds up because you're constantly stirring it and it's not going to just kind of break apart when it's all bubbling and cooking. So that is what I'm using. So I cut it up into cubes. I didn't even, the Super Firm is really hard and doesn't really need pressing like normal tofu. I cut it up into cubes. I put it on parchment. I did not put anything on it. No marinade, nothing, and literally browned the tofu. So that is ready to go when we are ready to go in the pan. Okay, so those two things I did in advance. Those are your first two steps. The next step is we're going to saute our aromatics. Okay, so did you just hear that? Can you hear that it's sizzling? That's
Yep.
because our pan is hot. And this is when we're going to water saute. I'm taking a little water. You could also use broth. But then you get a spoon. Oh, the steam is just really all steaming here. You could get a nice facial, actually. So what we're doing here is we're just going to saute the onions. That was a half an onion. Just going to move these things to the center if I can make room here. Let's just put this over here for a moment. And I haven't even cut the garlic or the ginger, so we're kind of a little bit ahead here. Ahead in the sense that I haven't done the things I'm supposed to do. So we have garlic, and we have, how much garlic do we have? We have 2 cloves of garlic. And I talk about garlic all the time, right? In the sense that sometimes you get little tiny cloves, sometimes you get big cloves. So you kind of have to learn when in a recipe, any recipe, that it says 2 cloves, what is a normal clove? So I think my little cloves, I grew my own garlic this year. I have been doing that for the last couple years. And some of it is really big and some of it is not as big. Here is like the bowl. Look, it still has dirt on it, right? Here's the bowl of garlic. Here's a nice big one. And then there are little tiny ones, right? Here's little tiny ones. So you have to just deal with the different various sizes. And I'm gonna add a little teeny bit more because my cloves are kind of small. So I'm just gonna get this, and my garlic is so fresh that it's hard. It's actually hard in the sense that it's firm. Sometimes when garlic starts to get old, it's all mushy. So I'm gonna chop this, but I'm not gonna worry about really mincing it, just so you know. I'm gonna just throw it in there pretty much like in these big pieces because we're gonna transfer all of the aromatics to the food processor. So this is not sticking at all. If it were sticking, I'm gonna get a little more water, and it's cooking and smelling really good. And this is what we call water or broth saute. You could do this with water or broth. Sometimes you can, if you're using a tamari or something in a dish, you could also saute with coconut aminos or tamari. But we're just making sure, and we're never putting a lot of water in because you're not trying to make those onions swim. You're just trying to keep them moving so they're not getting stuck to the pan. Now, the next thing that we need that's an aromatic is the ginger. And I always have my ginger in a tiny little thing. And I use a lot of ginger in my life somehow. I just do. And sometimes I'm very lazy. I want to tell you all that. There are moments I'm very lazy and I don't even bother peeling it. And you know what? I think it's actually fine as long as the skin is clean and it's a root vegetable, right? So you don't want you don't want dirt on it or anything like that. But the other way of peeling it, remember how we were going to use a teaspoon for the measuring spoon. This is another way of cleaning the garlic. You can use a peeler, but I find just taking a spoon, and I like taking the measuring spoon, and we have about an inch of ginger right here. And I'm gonna put this into my compost, that skin. Sometimes I save that special skin and I make some tea. I'm taking a grater, it's a microplaner, and I'm literally just going to grate all of this in here. And it's probably easier to do it here. And we need about almost the whole knob, not quite. And honestly, the remaining piece you're gonna see, I'm just gonna end cutting it up because all these, like I said earlier, all this aromatic things go right into the food processor. So we don't have to make it all so tiny. And we're just gonna get this cooking here. And I'm gonna just cut this up, the remaining pieces. And we're just gonna throw them in. I'm not gonna bother to give them really good choppings, but enough choppings to make them somewhat small. And they're gonna go in here. They're just gonna go right in there. Okay? Everything is moving around, everything is cooking. It looks fantastic. And it smells really good. Garlic, onions, ginger. That's going to be the base of our stew. Okay. So let's move on to the next thing. Is we're going to move the food processor just slightly over here. Let's just see if I can make room so still have the recipes on my table here, but still also show you. We'll talk about Za'atar really soon. We're going to move that. We're just going to put some of these things close by. Okay, so remember we took our tomatoes And it's either going to be a can of tomatoes for you if you're feeling like I don't want to bother with roasting. But these are really delicious, okay? And they're going right into the food processor. Oh my God, they look so yummy. This is all I've been eating, tomatoes just like this, day in and day out. Sometimes I cook them. Today we cooked these tomatoes at 400 degrees because I wanted to cook the tofu at 400, but often I cook the tomatoes for hours at 325. So that's kind of up to you. I'm going to lower this. And now the trick of this is some of this is just sticking a hair. I can see that it's sticking. So I'm going to just put a little water just to free it up. Okay. And this is going to come out of the pot now. And I'm just trying to get it all onto one side because it is going to be a little tricky to get it into the pot. And we're just going to shake it in there. It's all going to go in there. And perfect. It's perfect. Pot is clean. Nothing's in there. We're going to put it back on the stove. But we're going to puree this. Okay. And you always want to do it slow at the beginning in case you don't want it to fly. I'm going to puree it for a few seconds because remember I have big chunks of garlic and I do have some big chunks of ginger. Okay, let's look in. Everything looks pretty good. I don't see any more big chunks of anything actually. So we're ready to go back into the pot. And we're going to need this food processor again, but let's just get this back in. Okay? So you don't have to do it in a food processor. You could do it in a blender, a Vitamix, or you could do it in your NutriBullet. I know there's a lot of jumpstart people, and this is really the time to ask questions, okay? You might say, you might actually say, you don't even have a blender. What do I do? What do I buy? And is this way of eating gonna do I need a million pieces of equipment? I'm gonna tell you no,
Hey,
but
Carol,
yes.
got a question about that, not about the blender, but about the pot. What type of pot are you using on top of that burner?
Oh, this is a staub, Staub. It looks like this, right?
Like a what?
This is when I got this present from Wendy when I moved here, because everything Wendy cooks and is in her stall pot. So this pot stays on my stove, like never leaves the stove, never ever leaves the top of the stove, because every dinner I make inside this pot. It's a little bit short, a little bit kind of like a wok in the sense that it's short and wide. And I probably make every single dinner in this. We are going to talk in a minute about my other pot that I love so very much, which is called which La Crusade. And this is this soup pot here. And I literally have had it probably since I was in my 20s. I mean, I don't know if I was in graduate school when I got this pot. All I know is it's been with me for at least 25, 30 years. It is an investment, a big investment, but you could ask for your, holiday present, Christmas present, all the presents you get in a year for someone to buy you a Le Creuset. It's strong, it's made out of enamel, and literally I cook every soup, and I usually cook every stew in here, but I like using this one today because it's low and wider, and it allows you to see a little better. What do I have in here while I'm showing you? I had no stock, and we're going to need 2 cups of broth or stock, and many of you buy it in a box. I'm just going to say, be careful what you buy, read it, see what's in there. A lot of the stock has very high sodium. So you just want to make sure that you're buying something that is full of vegetables and no sodium or low sodium, okay? Because sometimes I've poured those before and they look like they only have carrot water or something in them.
In
So
a pinch, Carol, in a pinch would water work?
oh, for sure, for sure. Everything that I'm doing, Jim, has extra flavor, right? So we roasted the tomatoes, but would a can of tomatoes work? Absolutely. So before we started, I put this pot on the stove, and I have in a Ziploc bag cuttings of onions, cuttings of celery, carrot peels, some tomato tops and bottoms, just so. And I made a beautiful stock, and we only need 2 cups, so I'll have some left over and I'll put it in a jar, and that's what we can saute with and things. But we're gonna bring that back in a very few minutes. Was that it of the questions, Jim?
Yep, that's it for now.
Okay, so now the next step, okay, let's move this away, and after the aromatics that we've done, we did the ginger and the onion and the garlic. Now we're going to add the things to the dish, right? And we have spices. We're going to simmer things with spices. So we have a teaspoon of cinnamon, and we have a half a teaspoon of paprika. Okay, so that's just gonna go right into there and just kind of get stirred around. Okay, gonna have to wash that machine there. And we're gonna look at our apples soon too. But this is looking so yummy already. Can you just see, like, who would not eat just that? I mean, just that alone, and some greens, and some greens. That would be dinner for me, for sure. So we're gonna add. So we added our spices. We added our tofu. Okay, so let's add our tofu. That's gonna go in there. Doesn't have to go in there this minute, but let's just get it in there because that's gonna go in there. It's really important that the thing that's going to take the longest to actually cook are the sweet potatoes. Now, I am recommending, and again, you can change it out if you want, okay? I am recommending Hannah sweet potatoes. Hannah sweet potatoes are so delicious. They're white inside, and Jim, I'm told by one of our team members at Plant Power that they're not so easy to find. Is that
You know,
true?
it is true that we go to an Asian market where we can always get it, but it's hit and miss. How about out in New Mexico?
Here, most of the main big chain stores here have them. I don't know why. Maybe I'm not sure. I don't have problems finding them.
We can get the
But
purple sweet potatoes. Yeah.
I'm told that people now, you can use sweet potatoes, okay? In this dish would be very African to use sweet potatoes. But I like these particular sweet potatoes because they're starchy, but they're not so sweet, okay? Another alternative, if you, again, you can use regular sweet potatoes. I just want you to know that the dish is going to be a little sweeter than I actually intended. Okay, so you
Mhm.
can use regular garnet orange sweet potatoes. There are also sweet potatoes that are called Japanese sweet potatoes, and that they're dark red like this, and look, they're white inside. Okay, so that's another choice. Okay, a Japanese sweet potato. You might see that in your grocery store. I certainly do. But again, I don't know. We're kind of a little we're a we're a high-low food culture here. We're New Mexico's a strange place, Jim. In a lot of ways, we're very gourmet, right?
Yep.
Very, very gourmet. But we're also right next to Texas, and people here do hunt a lot, and we're living in Native American country, and that is the way they their culture, and they hunt elk and eat meat, and I that is present here.
Yep.
So I can't not say, I can't ignore it, and we live next to Texas. So meat is prevalent where I live, but at the same time, you go to Santa Fe and you might have the best food you've ever had in your life.
Yep.
So it's just one of those things. I call it high-low culture. You can end up, and we eat a lot of chilies here.
I was going to
Chilies,
say
chilies, and chilies.
The Hatch chilies are legendary from out
Oh my God,
in
I
your area.
just at the stores, Jim. One day I'll send you a video and we can play it for everyone. They roast them at the grocery store for you.
Yeah.
And people with families buy a whole case. I buy
Yep.
only a half a case. I'm one person. So I don't buy a whole case. But I do buy them and I freeze them. I peel them after they've been roasted, and then I eat them all year long in cornbread, in chili, in on toast. I
Yep.
mean, once you live here, if you I mean, like when I first came here and I saw them roasting the peppers in the big barrels at all the grocery stores,
Yep.
every grocery store, every grocery store, local chilies. I thought I died and went to heaven. I literally
The
thought,
smell of that's amazing too. It's
oh
incredible when you
my
walk in.
God, it's beyond. It's beyond. So you
And
can see that I'm cutting these, and I'm not even cutting them with any thought. I'm kind of cutting them at angles. I kind of want them all different shapes. I mean, I'm just cutting them so that they're kind of start big and like
mhm.
that. That's what's going to take the stew the longest time, is to cook the potatoes. I do want to say that if for some reason you're have high diabetes, or you're watching your sugar, or you don't want to cook with yams, a perfect substitute for this, for cooking without any potatoes, would be cooking with turnips or parsnips. Parsnips would be delicious in this. And I'm sorry I don't have one to show you, but it looks like a carrot, only with beige skin. But this would be the perfect thing for, that would be a perfect substitution. If
But
anybody,
Carol, that with the sweet potatoes and especially the ones that are colored, it's much lower on the glycemic index. So it's also a matter of what you're eating with and what you're pairing the food with. Not,
correct.
yeah.
That is so true. I remember when my sugar was high at one point. I'm a baker, so it's hard not to have high sugar. But I don't eat sugar anymore. But I had, I was kind of getting close to the high sugar line. And the doctor basically said, it's how you're eating them. You must pair them correctly and not just consume them by themselves. That was her important advice to me, was don't consume them by themselves, because they would have higher sugar. But when it's mixed in with tomatoes and kale, that's all better. Jim, were there any other questions while we're kind of just hanging out talking?
The only other question is someone wants to know if there are any whole food plant-based restaurants down where you are.
Oh my God, there's not at all. I die. Like practically I miss New York. Do you know, when I was in New York in May, Jim, I was there for 5 days. I ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner, whole food, plant-based. I saw all my friends, and I literally had breakfast, lunch, dinner, whole food, plant-based. When you are in a metropolitan area, in Albuquerque, there are restaurants in New Mexico. There's not one. In Santa Fe, there is a whole food, plant-based, but I'm in Taos, a little north of Santa Fe, and it is not nothing. But there is one restaurant that I love very much, and once in a while they make a vegan meal, which I like. But they don't do it with no salt, no oil, and no sugar. That's the key. And Jim, we could go on and talk
Oh
about
my God.
how it's
Yeah.
really hard, right, to eat out.
It's a
But
trade-off. You almost have to make compromises every time. I'm on the road pretty much nonstop, and it becomes really a challenge. You got to bring your own food too, and that makes a huge difference when you're traveling.
oh my God, when I go on an airplane, I like panic. And I think, especially now, because I have no direct flights where I live, there's no direct anything, just even to California, I can't go direct. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm almost in a panic. So I bring all these things with me. I make whole sweet potatoes. I make a sandwich. Sometimes I make all these things so that I don't worry about where my meal's coming from. Do you know? Even if I just bring fruit, I feel like I'm okay. If I have fruit, I'm okay.
Just bake a potato and bring it with you.
Yeah, sweet potatoes, my answer
Yeah,
actually. Okay,
absolutely.
so we have to put the other things. I put the broth in. You saw that I took 2 cups. I have a wonderful ladle here that is exactly 1 cup, and we needed 2 cups. We might need a little more later as this boils. It will get thick, and maybe it's not. I don't want it so thick, and I want a little runnier. So I do have a little more stock, but I did 2 of these because we need 2 cups. We also need to look at the apples. We're almost at this point, but I want to kind of finish and go make sure there are things that we still need to add to this that I don't want to forget. Um, so let's just go through the recipe. We did our tomatoes, tofu, onion, garlic, ginger, paprika, cumin. Here we are at our whole pepper. We were just talking about peppers. Now, this is where I like things hot, and I like maybe one day I'll do a whole show on just peppers, literally
Oh my
peppers.
gosh.
I mean, I might explode if we did that, but these are habaneros, okay? These are hot peppers. These are serrano peppers. They're long and skinny. They kind of look like a jalapeno. There are an infinite amount of peppers, okay? I like this dish a little spicy. So what I do is I just poke this literally like with a knife, usually a paring knife, but this is the knife I have. And I'm just going to put this habanero literally inside the whole thing, and it's going to flavor it, but I'm going to take it out before I serve anything, okay? So it's basically flavoring the sauce, but I'm not going to munch on it, okay? Now, if you're someone that's very timid, and I know there are people out there that don't like anything hot, so I have an alternative here. I would suggest you use like a quarter teaspoon of cayenne and you could put that in when you do your cumin and your paprika, just a little bit of cayenne. That will help the heat of it a little bit. It's a 1/8, 1/4 of a teaspoon is teeny bit, and you could add a little more if you desire. It also will help bring up the flavor because we're not using any salt. So that's always something that we're trying to figure out when we're not using salt. How are you going to bring up the flavor? Jim, that reminds me, we'll talk about sumac
Yep,
when we're
yep,
using the za'atar for
absolutely.
flavor. But here, there are 3 ways we talk about this. Those of you that come all the time know this and who have been eating this way. The 3 ways of bringing up flavor when you're not using salt is that you're using fresh herbs like basil or cilantro or dill, all the fresh herbs, parsley, right? Those help bring up flavor. You're going to use citrus for oranges, limes, lemons, and you're going to use dried spices. So there is a life without salt. Now, if you had told me that years ago, honestly, I would not have believed you, really, because I was a trained chef and I really couldn't understand. I understood how to not cook with oil. That was something I understood. But with no salt, that was a real lesson for me because I think I just loved salt. And I really did. I liked it on chocolate. I liked it on everything. I liked it on everything. And I didn't have high blood pressure. But The fact is that if you can learn, we are technically the allowed to have like, I can't remember the grams right now, Jim. It escapes me,
It's a
but it's like that.
1500,
What
15, yeah,
15 grams, I think it is,
1500
right?
milligrams is really what you want to have at tops on a daily basis, although
Exactly.
the body can deal with less than that.
And that is 1 teaspoon, everybody. That
Right.
is that is 1 teaspoon of salt, that 15 milligrams. Thank you, Jim, for that, reminding me of that number. Um,
1500.
and it's 1 teaspoon. So what I say to people, if they're having a hard time transitioning, or they're needing salt just a little bit, you put that 1 teaspoon in a bowl. That's all you get for the whole day. Okay, the whole day. But that means that you're bringing home things that don't have salt. You're going to look at your can of tomatoes. You're going to look at your peanut butter. You're going to look at every single item that is a canned item, and even your beans that you're bringing home, you want no salt. Okay, so
Hey,
you take
Carol, would you say that it's better if somebody wants a little bit just to put it on as a finisher at the end rather than cooking with it?
Agreed, 100%, Jim, 100%. There are times that sometimes I feel stuck. I have a little bowl of salt that I use to clean my copper pans on the counter here, and once in a blue moon, I will take a tiny, tiny pinch, and I will put the few sprinkles, just like it's not even a pinch. And oh my God, I think, oh my God, that's what salt tasted like. But I try not to do that,
Yeah.
but it's just because I have it on the counter. I use lemons and lots of lemons and what do you call it? Lemons and salt to
Wow.
clean my copper pans. So
Yep.
I do have those things. I
Now,
definitely have those things.
now
Let's
I know
finish.
you. Yeah, I know you have something you're going to get to in a couple seconds that really can replace salt on the table too.
Yes,
So,
but let's
yeah.
not talk about that yet because I
Okay.
want
Okay.
to just get through this recipe. We need 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. Okay, I'm almost at the bottom. I've talked about this tomato paste. I love this one, Bio Nature. It's the same kind of. I buy their canned tomatoes. It's Italian brand. They also our sister company is Jovial. They make delicious pasta. They make delicious jam that's flavored with apple juice concentrate. So it's quite yummy. I like it because it comes in a jar. And we need 2 tablespoons. So I'm just taking it out. There's 1 tablespoon. I'm almost to the end of my jar here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just finish it off. It's not going to have a tiny, tiny bit of extra tomato paste. It's going to be fine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here and put a little liquid in it, little broth. And then I'm going to put the lid on pretty tightly, give it a good shake. And whenever I open anything like this and it goes in the fridge, I put a little a little tape, and write the date. That's a real restaurant trick. And it's good to write the dates on things that you do. Okay, so I just cleaned out this jar, which is awesome. See, it's perfectly clean and I'm happy. That is good. Okay, we're just gonna get through. So we need tomato paste. We did the broth. We did we're eventually gonna get to our lacinato kale, which is here. I've already taken some off. Again, I am growing a lot of kale and greens in the garden, chard. So a lot of you are familiar with the curly kale. The lacinato is, sometimes they call it dinosaur kale. It looks just like this, and it grows on a big stem. They all grow the same. I've already cleaned a lot, but what you want to do is, of course, you want to wash it. And I found with the curly kale, it's very easy to go upside down and just push it all off, like literally like this. And then that stem goes into your compost, right? I don't really cook with that. We'll just add a little bit of the curly, I guess, now that I've peeled that. But this lacinato has a stem as well, but it's not as thick and as sturdy as the as the curly kale. We're just gonna get this all off. Um, again, and we'll be ready for when the kale goes in. I like putting the greens in at the very, very, very end. Okay, and I'm cutting this, and I hope all of you know that the kale is a kind of tough, leafy green, and it's really important to massage it. Okay, I still massage it when I'm putting it into a stew and it's going to cook. Now, for sure, when you're eating salad, you want to give it a massage before you dress the salad because you want it, and it also kind of shrinks it. And you can feel after you've massaged it that it's actually softer, and it's actually becomes very nice. Okay, so we have our kale to put in. We also have our cilantro. Somewhere I have cilantro. I'm gonna just take it out of here. I have this nice container. I'm gonna put the cilantro. I'm just gonna chop some right now while we're thinking about it, because I might forget later when we're rushing. And I'm just gonna cut a bunch of cilantro, and I'm gonna put it with the kale. It's all gonna go in together. I grew, Jim, a lot of cilantro this year, and I grew dill, and the dill is all drying. Cilantro, I ate it all. I don't think I could have enough cilantro for like a summer or even a few months. I don't know how to keep it. Like I'd have to have a field, but this
No,
container is great.
yeah.
Great. It has water at the bottom. It has my parsley and cilantro, and it lives in the kitchen door. It lives right here on the door. So that's
Hey,
good. Let's
Carol,
do
I was
that.
going to ask again, if people can't eat cilantro, there's a percentage of people who just, it tastes like soap. Is parsley the best alternative?
It is usually the best alternative, but for this dish, I don't even think you need to have it. Like,
Mhm.
I feel like because I decided I don't think that African stew actually has basil in it, to tell you the truth. Honestly, I've made other African stews and well, sometimes they have basil, but I have so much basil and I'm about to burst from pesto. I can only eat so much pesto in one summer. So, and I have so much, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. If anybody has great ideas, please put it in the chat and Jim will tell me. But I'm overdosed on basil. And I grew a lot, and I'm going to dry it for sure. But it's so delicious fresh. So my plan is to put it in here too. So I have some cilantro, some fresh basil, and a big gigantic amount of kale. And we're just going to keep stirring this. It's cooking. Now, the one thing we haven't put in is, which makes it totally like a yummy African stew, is 1/3 cup of peanut butter. And I do want to tell you guys something that's not amusing, but it is amusing to me. Last 2 weeks ago, when I made this dish, and I had a brand new peanut butter. And this is one thing that you definitely want to do is when you're buying your peanut butter, you want to see that it's only peanuts, no, it has nothing else, right? It has only peanuts, no salt, no sugar, no soy oil, no, nothing, only peanuts. And often I grind my own peanuts just to make my own creamy peanut butter in the Vitamix. But this peanut butter that I got, the oil was sitting on the top, the rest of the peanut butter. And when I made the dish 2 weeks ago, I dug out the oil. I tried to stir it in the jar. And I finally just measured 1/3 of a cup. And I put it into the sauce, kind of chunky, kind of had a lot of bits. And do you know that it never broke down? The peanut butter never broke down in the sauce, and it really upset me. I thought I'm eating, and suddenly I was eating a chunk of peanut butter, and it was really bothersome. So today, before I thought I am going to deal with this chunky peanut butter that is liking to separate, I'm going to throw it all into the food processor, and I'm just going to blend it, and then I'm going to put it in another jar, right? And now it's labeled peanut butter and it's so blended. I am so happy I did that. It took 5 minutes, but I couldn't stand that it was hard and oil separating, and there's no solution but to get it all mixed up. So this is going into the sauce now, okay? And it's smooth, so it is going to disintegrate, which is good, opposed to my lumpy, bumpy kind that I had 2 weeks ago, which was not so great to have in here. And that is, so really our potatoes are cooking, and we'll know that this stew is done when the potatoes, you can pierce them with a fork, and then they'll be done. It will be done. I'm going to get a lid. I'm turning around here, wondering what to do. A lid always helps. Whoops, this is the wrong lid, Carol. What am I doing? I'm so used to cooking with the other pot. This pot has a nice clear lid, which will allow us to see things. And we have this, and we're good. We're going to squeeze a lime. We can do that also at the very end. Let's open it now so we remember. And let us also, we're going to do a fast cleanup, Jim, because I need to get the food processor back into action here without having the tomatoes in it. But I also want to, it's a good time for questions, but I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup. And please, if you're brand new, there's a lot of people that have been coming forever. Carol Klanowski. There's a lot of people that are loyal to the show here. And I'd like some of you, anybody that feels they're new, there's no question that is it's not embarrassing to ask a simple question, because
we got one question that just came up, and that is, are the apples burning?
oh, we could check. That's what we're going to check. That's one of the things I want to do. So I'm glad that someone asked that question. I wanted to check. We hopefully the water's still in the pan. We could have lost all the water, but oh my God, they're so beautiful, Jim. They're so
Let's see.
beautiful. I mean, look, the water, there's still a good 1/4 inch water in there. Okay, so we're gonna close that. I'm gonna
How do you know how do you know they're done?
Kind of like a potato, right? You want to be able, just like the sweet potato in the pot, just like the apples, you just want to kind of poke them, right? And I'm getting a kind of a big spoon here. It's a rice spoon. It's super crazy. I'm just tilting this, and I like basting them. I like putting the juice back inside. Okay, we can. I don't think they're quite done yet. They're kind
So
of big apples.
you really can't overcook them then, right?
No, and honestly, I would rather overcook them. The only time, honestly, like I said, if you're living in New York and you could get the beautiful Rome apples, I would get those. And if you're just getting them at the grocery store, the Fuji and the Gala do hold their shape. Do hold their shape. Any apple you can bake like this, honestly. But the fact is that you don't want them exploding. And I'm not saying they're gonna explode in the oven like a big, go all over the place. They're just gonna explode in the sense that they're gonna collapse, and they're gonna leave their skin, and they're gonna look like they've kind of melted down like the Wicked Witch kind of thing, like blah. They're not holding their round, firm shape. We can do a little test here to see. I can also tell when the skin starts to get really crinkly. And this one is starting to look more done than any of the other ones. And I'm going to try to show it to you. Can you see the skin and how it
Yep.
looks really crinkly? This one is more done. Now, it is definitely smaller than the rest. It is definitely a different kind of apple. So it's probably a good idea to not do what I just did and have all these different kinds of apples. They are kind of similar in size, And there's plenty of juice here to keep them back in the, to leave them back in the oven. If it were almost gone, I would add more water, but we're gonna put them back. And Jim, I honestly think they can cook until we're almost done, like in another 10 or 15 minutes. You can not overcook them, okay?
Great.
Okay, let me just wash the things we need. And it'll be great to answer any more questions if anybody had a
Yes,
question.
I think we've gotten most of them out there. I loved your little technique of poking the holes in the habanero pepper and then taking it out. I never thought that's such a great hack in the kitchen to add flavor.
Oh, you know, Jim, I make so many Indian dishes, Indian food, right? And that's supposed to be spicy as well. And I think I learned from Indian cooking that technique, uh, especially with black eyed peas that we make at the end of the year when they're supposed to be all good for us. Black. Oh, and I know. Speaking of black eyed peas, oh, because I put a serrano chili when I make a tomato-based black-eyed pea dish. That's supposed to wish you luck at the beginning. If you eat 365 beans at the new year, you're supposed to have a lot of luck, which I think is pretty great if you can do that. I don't know how you know that you can eat 365 beans, but that is the theory, is that they're very good luck for you. Um, what I was going to say is, we are going to eat rice. I didn't even cook rice. It would have been good if I cooked some rice with this dish. Brown rice is what I would serve with the African stew. But you could serve millet, you could serve quinoa, you could serve almost any grain. But if you wanted to add more fiber to this dish, black eyed peas would be like a really fantastic combination with this dish. And I say that even in the notes. So you don't even have to write it down because I put it in the notes.
So somebody
Jim, do
wants
you
to
like
know,
black eyed peas? Do you like them?
well, I don't think I've met a pea or a legume or a bean that I haven't liked. How about you?
Oh my God. Well, you're talking to me. I mean, like I'm just like bean centric, you know, like I don't know. I must have grown up as a bean or something. I'm not sure. But
So,
I'm
so
in the process of.
question came in, and this is sort of off the beaten path, but when do you think whole food, plant-based SOS will go mainstream? Or is that something that might never happen? What do you think?
I feel like it's always moving up and up and up and up. You know, we're not at the top of the mountain yet and can shout, "Yay, everyone's plant based." But I feel that, especially in metropolitan areas and around the world, you know, around the world, when you travel, I felt places like Barcelona, places that are heavy on ham and meat products and I don't know. Italy, I mean, has always been, when you go to Italy, you get a piece of meat that's a 1/4 inch thick. It's like the bottom of your soul, but you get vegetable upon vegetable upon vegetable, right? That's why they always say the Mediterranean diet is so healthy because they're eating a lot of vegetables and a lot of grains already. So
Absolutely.
I think it's just a matter of time. Do I think it's gonna, take over the world? It would be awesome. But I
It
do
would be.
feel like it's more common. And the fact that I could be in New York for 5 days, not eat at the same place over and over, and go, from breakfast, lunch, and dinner to another restaurant, that tells you that the food is available, you know?
Yep.
It's pretty
Absolutely.
amazing.
I know you got to
Okay,
get on with you. Why don't you get with that last recipe so we can get that done?
yes, because we're almost done, and
Yep.
and and I haven't served a thing. So we're yeah. Let's just and we have this left over, and we're just gonna move that, and we have our little apples, and maybe the stew won't be quite done, but that's okay. Okay, so I love hummus, and we were talking about beans, and hummus is a delicious thing. All kinds of hummus. I think you've seen me make every kind of hummus: sweet potato, beet hummus, regular hummus, red pepper hummus, brownie hummus. I mean, it's endless when you have a base of beans. But this special recipe is just pureed beets, some plant-based yogurt, and a wonderful spice called Za'atar. Now, what I just, before Jim and I get all excited about talking about Za'atar, which was going to be part of my, what would I say? Part of my, when we have a spice class, which today it couldn't be a spice class, but I want to say that this recipe has come from one of my favorite cookbooks. And the point that I want to make is, and I'll show you this cookbook, and many of you might know this because this book was so famous just maybe, I don't know, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, I've lost track, but it was called the Jerusalem Cookbook. And it was everywhere. And I have all, he's got, Autumn Lange has probably 10 books by now. I have 3 of them. And when I got this book, I think I made almost every recipe out of here that was not meat related because I was a vegetarian. And I cooked my way through this book and loved it so very much. And once in a while, I remember that I have things that I love that I have forgotten about. I have forgotten because I'm not working out of these books like I used to because they have a lot of oil, they have a lot of salt, they have things that I'm not eating. But my point here is that you can take something that you have loved before. Again, maybe it's a family recipe, maybe it's a traditional recipe that you grew up with. Oh, you can take a recipe. I read the New York Times all the time still and garner recipes from them where I just make substitutions. When I see the 1/4 cup of oil or the 1/2 cup of oil or the 2 teaspoons of salt, I just say, okay, I'm going to omit those and I'm going to figure out the rest of the recipe. So my point, especially to the newcomers, is that you don't have to let go of things that you love. So this recipe comes out of this Jerusalem cookbook. I've omitted the salt. I made minor changes. He already had some date syrup in the recipe. He already had yogurt. He had Greek yogurt in the recipe. I'm using a plant-based, I'm using Greek style, plain, unsweetened. With this is an almond yogurt. So I'm barely made changes to his recipe, barely. Okay, so the first thing, Jim, that we're going to talk about, right, is a beet. Okay, this is a beet. This beet is from my garden. It's little. They're not all big yet. The beet, I have learned to love the greens. This you cut up, you can eat the stem, you can eat all these greens. And Jim, we just talked about like what is, if we ate these greens, 1 cup was like 17% of our fiber. Is that
Over
what we
daily.
just
Yep,
read from the
absolutely.
Dr. Furman book? We just read that.
And beets have such an amazing positive capability on your dilation to allow for better circulation, lower blood pressure. It's that nitrite, nitric oxide pathway. Amazing. I think in the Jumpstart they were even talking about that.
Well, the amazing thing is I have learned over the years to love the greens more than the bottom.
Mm,
It's so
yep.
crazy. And I always call it the 2-for-1 vegetable because you get the beet and you get the stems. And I do want to tell you all, if any of you shop at any farmer's market, that most people do not want these greens. They don't know what to do with them. So the farmer has underneath its table, usually under, you can't see it, but it's in a crate, and he has a huge pile of just the greens. And you can actually ask the farmer, do you have any beet greens? Do you have any beet greens that you can have? And I used to go around and collect a whole little plastic bag full of the greens when I lived in New York because they were so delicious and they
Yeah.
were free. And they were free. They were getting rid of them because, again, most people don't know what to do. So I have 1 pound of beets here that have been roasted in the oven. Now, I roasted them. I put them in foil. I put a little bit of water. Often, I think Autumn Langi actually drizzles probably some oil and puts them in foil and bakes them. You can bake them, and you can bake them at 400 degrees, and they roast. Again, you can boil them. They're just not going to be as intense of a flavor. And you could buy beets in the grocery store. Often I see them just in their own like sealed plastic, and you can buy those beets. Okay, so you don't have to roast them. You could boil them, or you could buy pre-made beets. Okay, I have 1 pound. They're all cut up. They're very strong tasting because they have been roasted. Okay, so I peel them after they came out of the oven, and I'm gonna place some beets. I'm gonna place 1 to 2 garlic cloves. I have 2 here that I'm going to use. Okay, and we're going to place chili and yogurt. Okay, so again, we're back to the chili, and yup, Autumn Lengi suggests that you use 1 red chili. Now, if you're not living in New Mexico, which most of you are not, you're probably likely not to find a fresh red chili like this. You might only find dried ones. So it is okay to substitute half of serrano, which we had a minute ago. Would not use the habanero. It's very, very strong. And I'm only going to use half of this. And I'm not even going I'm going to use just a few seeds. And I'm going to put this in there. Again, just a little tiny bit of chili. You could even use a jalapeno if you need to, and just a little bit of it. Okay, so we're going to put that. And then we need a half a cup of yogurt. Okay, a half a cup. Let's get a spoon out. Time is going so fast, Jim. I don't know where it goes. We've been cooking and talking. I guess that's where it goes.
That's a
So
good thing,
this
right?
is very nice. This is not my yogurt of choice all the time. I always buy the Forger, but they didn't have that. So I'm just going to put that in there like that. Okay. So I'm going to get this right back in the fridge. And we're going to put in this a very special spice. Again, I was kind of holding off on Za'atar until we had our spice class, but because it's a blend, okay? Sometimes you can buy blends that are already made, like Italian seasoning is a blend. Sometimes Cajun seasoning is a blend. We're going to have a show about just blended spices. This is very special Za'atar. And what is Za'atar? I actually tell you in the recipe that it's a combination of thyme, oregano, marjoram, and a special spice called sumac and sesame seeds. And Za'atar is a Middle Eastern spice. You usually see it on pita bread with oil, often served on, with just spice on toast, basically. You can eat Za'atar on salad. I have Za'atar. This is from Jordan. My very good friend just came back from Jordan, and she brought me a big bag of it. And I have some Za'atar in my pantry that's in a jar, and I don't want to mix the two because the flavor is really different from region to region. Okay, so I want to keep it pure, and we need to have how much Za'atar? 1.5 teaspoons. Okay, so we're gonna do one, and I want to mix this. I don't want to put this Za'atar quite in yet. Okay, and we're going to mix this, and we're going to also add, now, in the original recipe, Autumn Langi had date syrup. And I don't have any date syrup, but there is a brand called Just Date. They make date syrup, and it literally is just dates. And we can use a little bit of it. It's still a sweet, so you wanna. It does still have calories, but we're only going to use 1 tablespoon. And I decided because what I had available, not date. I didn't have any date syrup. I was going to use pomegranate syrup, and it's by literally the same brand as the called Just Date, and they literally make the exact same thing in date syrup. And let me just get my favorite little spatula. Sometimes you want 5 of the same spatula because you just overuse your favorite spatula. Okay, so I put 1 tablespoon of this pomegranate syrup that literally is made from just pomegranate juice and dates. That is all that's in there. Okay, and we're gonna set this blender and we're gonna look for the lid everywhere, which is right here. Okay, and we're just going to pulse it.
What a great color.
And we're gonna take our little spatula and we're gonna get this stuff off the sides.
What a great color.
It's so beautiful.
Yep.
And we're gonna get our apples. Our apples are done. I just know they are.
Yeah, we have about 1,000 more things to talk about, but only a few more minutes, so this is all going to come together
And we're
quick,
gonna
right?
finish up, Jim. I know it's time to finish. I'm watching the clock and I know it's time. Everybody's been with us and I am respectful. I do cram a lot of things into 90 minutes. It's a long time, but it is, I like showing, this is really literally what I've been eating these days. This might be a nice thing to make at Christmas or Valentine's. It's
Absolutely.
so red. Well, it's so red, right? And then of course we have to taste it. We have to taste it before it comes out. Let me just give a big taste. Mm. 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 Oh, it's a little spicy. Oh, it's just a little spicy. That's okay.
That's from the Za'atar.
Yeah, no, it's not the Za'atar. It's my little chili that I didn't know. It's
Ah,
always good to put less chili than you think because it can be spicy, the chili. Anyway, you can serve this on toast. You can have carrots. You can make a wrap out of it, put a salad in it. I mean, it is a spread. And I'm going to put the other, let's just get this. Oh, it's spicy. I think my eyes might be crying. I put a half a chili. That particular chili was hot. So I guess what I'm going to recommend to you is if you're sensitive to these kinds of things, you definitely just want to put in the littlest amount because you can always go forward and add more, but you can't go backwards and take it out, right? So I'm putting the other half a teaspoon. I like actually putting the Za'atar in last, to tell you the truth. I don't like putting it in when it's all mixing up. And then we're going to put a bunch of Za'atar on the top for decoration because it's got sesame seeds and it's really just really pretty. And we're just using this bowl because it was here for the beets. And I just thought, and then I like to put a little orange zest because it's my substitute for the salt. And I'm just looking for my zester. And you could grate it or you could just put a little bit. So when you pull some out, you're actually getting a little bit of orange with the zest. And it's you could use the microplane and I'm just making little strips. But that orange is going to kind of decorate it. It's going to look like that. You see? Now let's just get these things out of here. And we're going to try to really finish up, Jim. We're going to wrap it up.
beautiful.
We're going to get all this dirtiness out of here. And we're going to really look at the stew that is boiling like crazy with a mitten. The mitten is going to help us with the lid. And it's cooking like crazy, actually. I better lower it. I'm not very good with electric. People are probably much better at it than I am, actually. Let's just get it lower. It's really cooking. And you really want to be careful that it's not splattered on you. That's the one thing that's super important. The potatoes I don't think are quite done. They're starting to be transparent. I can see. I'm going to just give it a little bit of a taste with this tomato spoon. Let's just get rid of the tomatoes and just give it a taste to see that I have the good flavor. Mmm. Delicious. It's really delicious. And it's not too spicy, Jim. It's got that pepper that's floating around in there. And honestly, I have to say, it's not so spicy. And that's probably good for most people. And let's just do our thing here, where we're going to put all of our greens, and we're going to put that in there. And we're going to, look at that. I mean, oh my gosh. That makes me just so happy, just like that. Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
And we're going to mix that in. And you might want more greens because it all looks like a lot right now. But the thing is, they cook down. And so you just want them to be in there. I really have to show you up close. The greens must cook. I'm going to add just a tiny, probably bit of broth, just a little bit. My little doggie, Isla, she's in here checking out what I might have on the ground for her.
Yeah, we can see her. Yep.
Yeah, she's here like licking the ground. I'm not sure. Oh, Isla, I have no idea what is on the ground. Hopefully, at least I know there's no chocolate, so that's good. Jim, this is looking amazing. I don't know if I'm gonna really serve it out like we. Let's get the lime in there, and you can top it off with some peanuts when you serve it. But let's just get the lime juice in there, and these are kind of little limes, but that's okay. But that Isla is crying. She says it's almost dinner time for her, so she thinks that I'm possibly, there's a pan that I get out of the cabinet that she knows her vegetables get cooked in, but I'm not using that pan. But she certainly knows. I want to just show everyone because we're not going to put this stew in a bowl because I still want it to cook, but I just want to show everyone how beautiful it looks, right?
Looks gorgeous.
It's really mouth-watering and really delicious. And I'll be eating it for days to come, but that's okay. But it looks delicious. And do not hesitate to put a little more kale in there, okay? And you don't want to serve anybody that pepper, right? So you want to definitely make sure that you pull that pepper out. And we're going to get the apples right this minute. And we're going to get those. And I guess, Jim, we've done it all in just the amount of time. And here are the baked apples. I do think I might bake them a little teen. They're ready. They're beautiful. Can you see? They're so, there's just looks so good. And I love the sauce again, it looks just like water, cinnamon, and nutmeg. But sometimes I put them away once they cool. I put the whole pan in the refrigerator, or I transfer them. But this water at the bottom tomorrow, it will be a little syrupy. It will get a little thick because it does have the raisins, and you could put a date in there. And like I said, frozen apple juice concentrate that's not sweet, and those raisins are really puffed up. And it's really beautiful.
Beautiful.
And it just, I don't know, it's the simplest thing that you could serve. And I love the idea that someone mentioned the pears, because I do make poached pears, and that is such a great idea. So that compliments to that person who was on their toes thinking. And we are done. And is there any questions that anybody has about anything?
I think we got some of them answered because we knew we were going to be running a little bit long, but people are saying how beautiful everything is. As always, it must smell amazing in your house right now. So
I
just
think
bring,
this is why
yeah,
Isla's running around here just with her nose. She runs with her nose up in the kitchen, wondering what's going on.
well, let me finish off a couple of announcements. I'll bring it back to you for some last words in a
Okay,
second, if that works for you.
that's perfect, Jim.
Fantastic. Well, we want to just talk about to make sure, and we want to really, really thank all the jump starters who are here, as well as everybody who joins us. But we have lots of upcoming events in the community, virtually. You can always go to www.plantpoweredmetrony.org. And don't forget, we have 2 jump starts coming up in October, one in English, one in Spanish. And there is an event tomorrow night, a virtual event where we're going to have a Jumpstart preview and answering your questions. So absolutely, if you want to learn more, or you can just ask some of the Jumpstarters who are here today. They can probably tell you, hopefully, how amazing it is. With that said, I think what I want to do is just shift it back to Carol for a second. Say any last words, Carol? Oh, your food looks
I just want
amazing
to
there.
say, hang in there, all of you new people, you jump starters, because hanging in there, there's a lot of support. That is what Plant Powered Metro New York is all about, support. I miss that support here in New Mexico. Having community is everything, is everything. So I just say hang in there and ask the questions, and I think it's all possible. And
30,
health is just
yeah.
around the corner for some of you.
30-second question. Just got one more from somebody saying anything that you'd advise not to use the Za'atar on, or could that be used pretty much like you would use, like
You
we
know,
used to
there's
use salt?
another spice that I've used a blend, another blend, which is also, well, more Egyptian than Middle Eastern, but it is definitely, it's called dukkha. Some of you might already know dukkha because you buy it at the Trader Joe's already made. But dukkha is one of those spices like za'atar that can literally go on everything. And
Yeah.
Jim, we didn't talk about sumac.
Sumac. I know, I know. Next time. Actually, next time's pretty cool because it is one of your off the cuffs on
It is,
Sunday.
and maybe it's going to be about spices. Who
Oh,
knows?
please,
But
please, please.
this
That would
is
be
the
so
thing. Could we
wonderful.
just tell everybody that sumac is in the za'atar, and it is a wonderful lemony spice made from the bark of a tree, actually, and it is lemony and a great substitute for salt. And
And that's a
it's already in the za'atar.
Yep, and that's a perfect ending point. So, Carol, as always, your stuff is amazing. To everyone watching tonight, or anytime you see this, please make sure you hit like and subscribe to what Planned Parenthood Metro New York does. And on behalf of Carol, Wendy, and Isla, who's going to make her appearance right now, there we
Here
go.
she is. Here she
Fantastic. We
is.
we wish you a wonderful evening, a wonderful week ahead, and just keep going plant-based. It's amazing.
Come on down, step right in. Carol's Kitchen, where we begin. See what's cooking, something new. Plant-based power just for you.